Bună ziua, numele meu este Doru Someșan și vă invit din partea editurii Vellant la o lansare de carte atipică, sau mai bine spus, adaptată condițiilor actuale în care munca remote și munca de acasă e pe prim plan și ne-am gândit să ținem aproape de cititorii noștri pentru această lansare. Este vorba despre cartea Despre Prezență, o călătorie spre sine, scrisă de Carlos Labate, un argentinian care locuiește de mulți ani la noi în România. Probabil vă este cunoscut multora dintre voi datorită cursurilor de yoga pe care le ține. Iar cartea reprezintă periplul spiritual al lui Carlos Labate în întâlniri cu maestri spirituali, în care se încearcă să răspundă la cele mai importante întrebări care ne frământă în viața de zi cu zi, cum ar fi ce este iubirea, cum putem obține sentimentul de serenitate, cum putem fi calmi în vremuri agitate, un subiect foarte potrivit timpurilor noastre. Este o carte de spiritualitate și de dezvoltare personală. Cartea a apărut în decembrie și la finalul lunii ianuarie am ajuns deja la al doilea tiraj. E o carte care vine cu promisiunea de a ne domoli anxietatea în aceste vremuri tulburi și o carte care ne va învăța cum să fim mai în acord cu principiile și cu eu-ul nostru profund. Înainte de a da cuvântul lui Carlos pentru a vorbi despre carte și despre un subiect foarte interesant care sunt cele 3 stadii ale minții, aș dori să vă adresez un îndemn sau o rugăminte ca pe timpul acestei carantine să comandați cărți online, ori de pe site-ul nostru www.vellant.ro, ori de pe site-uri oricărei librării partenere sau librărie dumneavoastră preferate. Carlos, you can talk now.
Hello. I imagine what he said is nice. It's very nice to be here. I have no idea who is there, how many of you are there, but whoever it is, and be here. If you know me, you know that it is not that I am waiting for something, but it's just that I'm trying to come into this moment. I am going to talk for a while, and hopefully what I'm going to say is interesting to you, but whatever I'm going to say, 2 things. It's not as important as the present that you have right now. That's one thing. And the second thing is that whatever I'm going to say is going to be words that hopefully will bring you to this moment right now. So basically what I'm trying to say is that what I'm going to say is not as important as being in this moment right now, as the recognition of the presence right now. Because we have a problem, because we have this lack of possibility to recognize presence, then things have to be said. But the things that are said, the words that are said, are only pointers to bring us into the moment, are only pointers to help us recognize presence. this presence that is here right now, is the presence that was here also before this meeting started, and is the presence that is going to remain when the meeting finishes. So this presence does not depend on this meeting, does not depend on me, does not depend on what I'm going to say. This presence is completely independent of what is being said or what is not being said. It's completely independent on what's happening or what is not happening. The presence is there anyway. What is not there is the recognition that the presence is there. And because of that lack of recognition, then words have to be said. Or let's say, better said, sometimes words help into the recognition of that presence. But the words, to be helpful, they have to bring us into the recognition of a silence. And then from that silence, we can see that there is no just silence. You never find silence alone. What you find is silence and then an awareness of the silence. It's impossible to have silence on its own. So the words will bring you to silence, and then from the silence you can recognize that in order to notice the silence, the awareness has to be there, the presence has to be there. So from the words you go to silence, and from silence you can recognize this presence that is always there, that is always here, that is always now. So if there are silence when I'm talking, and hopefully there will be, don't wait for the words to come. The words are not the important thing. Even if they are nice, or sometimes they are, hopefully the words are nice and the words can be comforting. Hopefully. But even so, the words are truly not the important thing. Not what I'm going to say, but the recognition of what never changes, of what is always here. There is something very wonderful about being in the moment. Yes, thoughts can make the moment very difficult and complex and unpleasant and painful, but just before the thought, there is a silence. And in that silence, there is presence. There is also presence with the thought. But you know, a thought is like a cloud, like a dark cloud. It can also be like a white cloud, but many times a thought is like a dark cloud that seems to cover the sun. But think about that. The only way for you to see the dark cloud is because of the sun. So that is one of these beautiful things, beautiful understanding that we can have, that even if because I forgot to put my phone in silence, even if there is a dark cloud and the dark cloud apparently is hiding the sun, the way to see the dark cloud, the reason why you are seeing the dark cloud, the only way, the only reason why we are able to see the dark cloud is because the sun is there, even if we don't see it. And that's exactly the same with presence, with awareness. When we have all these thoughts seem to cover this presence. But the reason why you know you have thoughts, the reason why you can realize, oh, I have all these terrible thoughts, the reason is because awareness is there. If awareness was not there, you couldn't notice the thoughts. So awareness is before a thought. That's easier to notice. It's like it's easier to see the sun when there are no clouds. Then you look out and you say, there is the sun. Now, the sun is still there when it's full of clouds. But it's not so easy to notice the sun. You still see the clouds because of the sun, but it's not so easy to see as when there are no clouds. So the sun is there when there are no clouds. The sun is there when it's very, very cloudy. And the sun, of course, is there when the clouds go. It's the same with thoughts. When we have all these difficult thoughts, it seems that's all there is, but it's not. Presence is right there, full as usual, complete as always, but it seems to be covered by the many thoughts. So that's why it's useful to learn to quiet the mind, because when the mind is more quiet, then it's easier to notice that presence. It's not that presence is there when there are no thoughts. It's only easier to notice presence when the mind is more quiet. Just be in this moment. Just notice that you are in this moment. The main difficulty of noticing this moment is the many thoughts. It's the thoughts that are talking in our mind, telling you, so what? What about it? What about this? Okay, I'm here, and so what? And what about all this problem? What about all this difficulty? What about this crisis? What am I going to do? What happened? These thoughts, which definitely they have their place, but it's these thoughts the main difficulty for us to perceive, to notice, to recognize that unchanging, always present, always here, awareness, presence, that we are. And it is in the recognition of presence where the true meaning of our life comes into place. I mean, at the very beginning of my book, I wrote, it's at the very first page, I said, I dedicate it to my son, to David, but David is a symbol for everybody, truly. I put the name David there. It's true that I am very deeply connected to my son, but in my best moments, this connection with my son transmits into everybody. My son is only a symbol for everybody. So I wrote here, to my son David, with the hope that one day he will be interested in this kind of knowledge. This kind meaning whatever is in the book. All knowledge is valuable, but without knowing who we really are, life is wasted. Knowing what we really are is the recognition that we are this presence. We are the awareness, aware of our thoughts, aware of our emotions, aware of our difficulties, aware of our likes, our dislikes. We are the awareness, the unchanging awareness, awareness of the changing world. And that recognition is really the essence of our life, is really what gives meaning to our life, is the meaning of our life. If you get lost in the many thoughts when there is silences, then you can always use the moment. You can use what happened in the moment to bring your attention to. Instead of continuously being lost in your thoughts, which is what we do. When there is these moments of silence, you can bring attention to the moment. For example, one wonderful tool is to bring attention to the breathing. The attention to the breathing is not presence. Presence is what is aware of that you're paying attention to the breathing. I know I am paying attention to the breathing. That knowing, that's closer to presence. But in order to help the mind not to be completely lost in the thoughts, then pay attention to the breathing. Just notice that you're breathing. That's not presence per se, but it's like a beautiful, very practical doorway into presence, into the recognition of the presence that is always here. So when there are these moments of silence, instead of getting lost in the many thoughts, in the past, in the future, the problem, the idea, the worries, the preoccupations, notice the breathing. Just notice that you're breathing, that the air comes in, the air goes out. It's strange with the camera because if I look at myself, I have my image in front, and if I look at myself, I'm looking down, I can see the camera is up, but if I look at the camera, I'm looking at the green dot, and it's not so much, it's kind of not very much fun to look at the green dot. I would rather look at the green dot because it looks, I guess it will be closer to looking at you. But the green dot is not so interesting, so I'm looking a bit lower. So what I mentioned as a possibility to talk. And by the way, it will be possible, there will be time, hopefully if I don't talk too much, there will be time for questions and answers if you are interested. And if you want to ask some questions, please, you can do it now if you want to. You can write them in the, I guess there is a place to do it, a comment section. And please write your questions and then they will send them to me and I can talk about those questions. if you want. I remember when I was young and I started to read all these philosophical spiritual books, I would have liked so much to have somebody to ask these questions. I had so many questions about almost every word that I will read in those books. I was so taken by them. And I would have given so much of, I would have given everything. And actually I did. I mean, I left Argentina in the search of those answers. I would have given so much to find somebody to talk to in order to answer some of these questions that I had. And I promise you, I asked so many questions. So the subject that I sought is, I call it the three states of the mind. And to talk about that, first I will mention very briefly that the first thing to try to understand is that our main aim in life, even if we know it or not, what we can say instinctively, what we internally, what we strive for is happiness. And everything that we do it because we are looking for that happiness. That we think that we do things for many things. I don't know, we think that we go to work because we want to get money, or we think that we get married because we fall in love, or we think that we have kids because we want kids, or we think that we travel because we want to discover new countries, or we think that we eat good food because it makes us feel good. But the reason why we do everything that we do, and this is not easy to understand, not easy to get, but if the reason why we do anything that we do is because we feel inside of our heart, we feel not content, not at peace, not fulfilled. And so we do anything and everything in the search of that peace, of that contentment and that fulfillment. And that peace, contentment, and fulfillment is what I call happiness. There are different kinds of happiness. That's a whole subject in itself. You can drink a couple of beers and feel more happy, but that's not the happiness I'm talking about. It's not the happiness I'm talking about. Is not a high. The happiness I'm talking about is a stable. Is a continuous. That's what I call happiness. A continuous sense of peace, contentment, and satisfaction with I search, that I long for. And so one way to talk about this is that there are three different ways. Probably another time I can say there are 5, or there are 10, or there are 2. But one way to explain what I want to say now is that there are three ways to find that happiness, or three levels of understanding on how to find that happiness. And the first level is where most people are, where most of us are, which is we look for that happiness outside in the world. We look for the happiness in the world, in things that happens to me. We look for the happiness in relationships. We look for the happiness in money. We look for the happiness in power. We look for that happiness in experience, in outside experiences. We look for that happiness. In general, we can say that we look for that happiness in two main ways. One way is through a sense of security. And think about that a lot of the things that we do them because we want to feel secure with ourselves. And now with this crisis, the reason why we feel so stressed, so anxious, so not at peace is because that very essential need that we have to be happy, which is security, has been shaken. We feel completely insecure. And it is that lack of security what creates this turbulence in our hearts, turbulence, this fear, this anxiety. Because, the truth is that we are never secure. There is no security in this world. There is no certainty in this world. The essence of the world is uncertainty. But in our new society, in this 21st century society, until about 10 days ago, we have created a bubble of apparent security. And so we were living like nothing will happen. We were living completely unaware of anything, doing whatever we wanted, always thinking on the future, always imagining that the future that we are thinking of is going to happen. And then suddenly, because of this crisis, this false sense of security that we used to have is shaken. And then we feel like, what do I do now? So this crisis is very difficult for everybody. But it's good to notice that one of the reasons why we are so scared, we are so afraid, we are so stressed, is because we had a false idea that there is security, that if I am more secure, then I am going to be happy. But there is no security, even before the crisis. So this crisis, from this point of view, please don't misinterpret me. I don't like this crisis like anybody else. But from this point of view, this crisis is very helpful because it will bring us closer to the truth that life is uncertain and that there is no security, and so we cannot look for happiness, that happiness that we want to, which is the sense of fulfillment and peace and contentment. We cannot look for it in security. There is nothing wrong with trying to be more secure. Nothing wrong with it. We all do that. And we will continue doing that until the last breath that we will take. But we need to understand that there is no happiness in that security. Why? Because there is no security. That's why. There is only a false sense of security, which means that there is a false sense of happiness, which can, any second, it can be taken from us. So that's one of the ways that the first state of the mind tries to find the happiness. Remember, our main interest in life is to find happiness. Happiness, I define it as a sense of contentment and peace and fulfillment. That's what we want. And in the first state of the mind, one of the ways that we try to find that happiness is through security. Now, the second way that we try to find that happiness is through pleasure, is through feeling good. And so once we feel more secure, which now is not the time, now we want to feel more secure because of the crisis. But before the crisis, when our security is somehow taken care of, the other thing that we spend so much time thinking about is how am I going to do to feel better with myself? And so we're continually thinking about taking trips, having sex, eating better food, making more money so I can spend more money, so I can feel more, I can do more fun things. And the just a moment. I lost my thought. You see, a thought was in my head, but for that thought, presence has to be there. Now I lost the thought, but presence didn't. I didn't lose presence. Because of presence, I can know that I lost my thought. Thoughts come and go, emotions come and go, situations come and go. But presence, what is aware of the thought, of the emotions, of the situations, that doesn't go. And one of our main source of suffering, it has nothing to do with what I was saying before, but one of our main source of suffering is trying to grasp what keeps changing. And everything keeps changing. That's why we suffer. The only thing that doesn't change is that presence. But that presence is pretty much the only thing that nobody pays attention to. We don't even know that that presence is there. How can we pay attention to something that we don't even know that is there? So I could say that the essence of my book is to bring attention to that presence. And so when we recognize that the presence is there, then we can start to pay attention to that presence. So let me say it again. The essence of my book is to help us recognize that there is a presence. And then the next step is to start to pay attention to that presence. But hopefully I will talk a bit more about this at the end. And so we try to find happiness through enjoyment. But the problem with that happiness is that there is no end to enjoyment. I mean, the best example, and I will not talk, I mean, you can talk about this for a long time, but the best example is very rich people. People that are not so rich, they always can imagine that because I don't have enough money, then there are many things that are not available to me. If they were available to me, then I will be more happy. That's what many people think. that the reason why I'm not so happy is because I don't have enough power and money to access certain things. But look at very rich people. There are exceptions, of course, but the grand majority, do you think that they're really happy? I mean, look at the actors. They keep changing relationships, looking for new relationships, looking for new adventures, looking for more ways to experience, to being there than that. What's next? What can I do next? More sex, more travels, more extremes, because really there is no end to satisfaction. That's a song, no? I can get no satisfaction. Sorry for my voice, I have a horrible voice. And that's a very good song. It's a very true song. There is no end to satisfaction. There is no happiness in satisfying desires. So, and again, a lot of the stress that we have now is because we are very afraid of, security is the main fear right now. Security almost takes everything. And this always happens. The second part, entertainment, fulfillment through pleasure, comes only after security is somehow covered. And because in this moment, security is so unclear, then most of our thought, most of our worry, most of our anxiety goes into that security. But I think when that security was more or less taken care of, the other thing that we thought about was, how can I do to have more pleasure, to enjoy myself more? But there is no end to that. There is no happiness, the way I talk about happiness. There is no happiness in in pleasure, because no matter how pleasure I have, I will always want more. So some people, for whatever reason, they start to see this. They start to see that security and pleasure are not enough, that there has to be something else. And so the attention, which always goes out, from here it goes out into the world, start to turn around, and you start to realize, either from your own wisdom or because you hear somewhere else, something like what I always said in my classes: the world is not out there, but it is created in our mind. There is no world outside of our thoughts. There is no world outside of our interpretation of what is outside. So the world is not in the world is in our interpretation, which means the world is in our mind, which means that world is not a material world. World is a mind. This is a beautiful recognition. There is not a material world. There is only mind. Again, there is not a material world, even if it looks like. I know it looks very clear there is a material world. I can touch it, I can feel it, I can hear it. But also I can look outside during the day and see a blue sky, or I look at the sun and I see a sun moving. So our senses lie. There is not a material world. There is only mind. And when I recognize that, then I recognize that it's not so much changing the world, but it's changing my mind. And that's the second state of the mind. It's a recognition that my happiness is not outside in the world, but it's in the way that I see the world. It's in the way that I think. It's in the way that I feel. It's in the way I interpret what happens to me. And so a revolution an inner revolution happens. And I could say that 75% of my book is about this revolution. It's about this inner revolution. It's about starting to recognize my own thoughts, start to recognize my own emotions as the world. My thoughts and my emotions are the world. And so if I want to change the world, I need to change my thoughts and emotions. And for that, there are many ways. As I said, almost 80% of my book is about that. It's about different ways. We can call them techniques, but I don't like the word technique too much. It's more like it's a new way to start to perceive. And it's very nice to hear to say it's like a rewiring of the mind. And the beginning of that rewiring is there is not a material world. All there is mind. And I don't know, I think I talk already too much. There are several questions. So I will not go too much into it. I make some marks in my book just to give some examples of for example, there is a note called, this note is called No Sugar, No Wheat Diet. But in there, basically I talk about freedom. And I'm just going to read something that I say in the book. I say, many people believe that to be free means to indulge in as many desires as they come up, to eat as much as one wants, to have as much sex as one feels like, to allow the wants to guide our life. Many people believe this is freedom, but it is not. This is nothing but slavery. I am being slave to my own needs. Why? Because there is no end to desires. And so later on, in the same article, in the same note, I say, freedom does not mean to consume as much as I want to. Freedom is actually the ability, the capacity, the strength to be able to choose if you want to indulge in something or not. Which means it's the inner strength and the inner freedom to be able to say, yes, I like this, I'm going to do it, but I don't really need it. So I can also say no. Slavery is when something is presented to me and I have to do it, otherwise I feel unhappy. Freedom is the inner state that I can do it if it's okay, if it goes okay with Dharma. Dharma is another word. I can do it. I could say Dharma is if I'm not hurting myself, other people, or the world. If what is presented to me doesn't hurt neither myself, not other people, not the world, then why not? I can do it. But if what is presented to me either hurts me personally, or it hurts another person, or it hurts the world, then I have the strength to say, no, I'm not going to do it. Even if it's fun, even if it's interesting, even if it gives me a sense of happiness in the moment, I have the strength to say no. And that strength is happiness itself. That's the happiness from the second place, from the second state of the mind. It's the happiness of freedom. I have the freedom to choose when possibilities are presented to me. Another one, I have several. I mean, as I said, 80% of the book is about that, but Another article is called The Golden Karma, and I love the golden karma. The way again, I will read you something from the book. We all hope to have good things happening to us, good karmas, a good job, a good family, more money, finding a beautiful community where we can do the things we like, having a healthy body, nice kids, etc. We all hope good karmas will come our way. However, having the golden karma is more important than any other karma. To have the golden karma is to have the wisdom to understand that whatever appears in front of me in this moment, not 5 seconds from now, but right now, in this precise moment, is exactly what is supposed to happen. So there is a happiness of getting things in the future. That's the first kind of mentality. And the second state of the mind is the embracement of what is, because it is. In this moment, not 5 seconds from now, know what's going to happen in 5 seconds, I don't know. But this moment exactly as it is, if I am able, if I have the wisdom to embrace what is, because it is right now, then that wisdom is my karma. It's given to me. And that's the golden karma. And that golden karma is happiness. One more. This is about loving oneself. One reason why we are so desperate, one reason why we are so desperate to get things from the world, so desperate looking outside, finding things, because we are very disconnected from ourselves, which basically means we don't love ourselves. We don't love what we are. And so we try to cover that sense of unlovingness towards ourselves with security and pleasure. But when you turn your attention around, you start to see that one of the most important ingredients is this very pure, very sincere love for what I am, whatever I am. And this is a longer article, but one thing I will read is talking about the necessity for a foundation from which we can build our life. And that foundation says, and this foundation is a sense of love, of connection, of acceptance, of embracing myself in this moment as I am, including, and this is the point, including all the imperfections, all the lacks, all the missing things. This foundation is the love of myself as I am in this moment, words and all. Anyway, I can keep going with this for a long time. It's a beautiful subject. As I said, 80% of my book is about this second mentality, this mentality of recognizing that the happiness is not outside, but is in the way I perceive the world. Now, there is a third mentality. We can say that the second mentality, I can call it a philosophical mind, or wisdom with low W. But there is another wisdom. And that wisdom is much more difficult to speak. It's very easy to speak about this second mentality, this wisdom with lower B. It's easy to talk because it's easy to express. Everybody will understand. Many people may not be interested at all. They will say, no, that's a waste of time. Let me work so I can make more money and feel more secure and get what I want. That's how most people think. If you have if it's given to you this possibility to look for something more, then you come into this philosophical mind. And if you come into the philosophical mind, what I'm saying makes a lot of sense, hopefully. And it's easy to talk about. And you can feel very connected to these things. But this third mentality, this third possibility of the mind, is what I personally call true spirituality. And this is more difficult because even if many people are interested in the philosophical mind, it's not so easy to be interested in this spiritual mind. And the spiritual mind is what I call true presence. And this true presence is, okay, the first mind is I look outside, I try to get things from the world, try to get my happiness there. Then I realize that my happiness cannot be outside. So I turn my mind around and I realize happiness is in the mind, it's in the way I look to the world. So there is not really a world outside. What there is mind. So that's the second state of the mind. But then, and now is when, to me, magic starts. That's when spirit enters. You can ask, okay, world is mind, but what is aware of this mind? What is the essence of this mind? What is this mind? How do I know what I know? What is aware of what I know? What is this awareness that is aware of this moment? Or another way to say it is, who am I? Who am I really? I think I am the mind, but I am aware of the mind. I mean, this is a very big subject. This is a really, truly huge subject. And I'm just going to talk about for 2 or 3 minutes, and that's all. But asking what is aware of the mind is asking, who am I? Because who is aware? I am aware. But what is this I that is aware? I think is the mind, but I am aware of the mind. What is the mind? The mind is thoughts and emotions, images, memories. I am aware of my thought. My thought appears like a cloud, disappears, I am aware. An emotion appears like a cloud. An emotion stays longer. So it's a cloud that stays longer. But still, before I didn't have that emotion, that an emotion appears, stays longer, but then the emotion goes, and I remain. I have a memory, but the memory was not here before, then comes and then goes. But I am aware. What is aware? Right now, what is aware of my experience? Or who am I, truly? Now, the normal response to this is, well, what is aware is the mind, it's in my brain. But is it? How do I know? If you go into the scientific world, they don't know yet. They don't know because they really believe that awareness is created in the brain, and so they are looking for it in the brain. And they didn't find it yet. In the scientific world, they still think that they say, actually, I read that. They say, just give me another 10 or 20 years, and I will discover it and I will let you know. But it's not in the brain. Awareness is not a product of the brain. Don't believe me, this is something that has to be verified. That's what the true spiritual work is, exactly that. Is the recognition that the awareness that is aware of my mind is not in the brain. And that awareness is already fulfilled, is already at peace, is already satisfied. And so the fulfillment and satisfaction that I'm looking for, first in the world and then in the mind, is something that is already here as the awareness aware of my experience. That's spirit, but not a spirit outside of myself, not a spirit that one day will come into me, or a spirit that I need to look for somewhere else. Spirit as the awareness that is aware of this experience right now. In my book, this recognition of this awareness is about 30% of my notes. So to finish, we are all looking for happiness. Happiness is the sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, and plenitude. We first look for it outside in the world. Then if we grow up a little bit, we mature a bit, we start to see that it's not out there, but because there is no world outside, there is only mind. There is only an interpretation of what I see outside. And so the world is in the mind. And then, as a third step, I may ask myself, what is this mind? What knows the mind? Who am I really? And with that question, the recognition of presence, the recognition of true presence can happen. And that recognition is the recognition of true happiness. It's a happiness that doesn't come and go. It's a happiness that is always here, in this moment right now, independent of what may or may not happen outside in the world or inside in the mind. I will look a bit at the green dot. There were some questions. Let me see. So one beautiful question is, please advise how not to live the present and not to think about the past. There is no problem about thinking about the past if you choose to. The problem is that many times we don't choose to, and our thoughts go to the past. This happens usually, it's not necessarily, but usually happens after we turn 35 or 40. Before that, people don't think so much about the past. It's only after a certain time, usually 35, 40, 45, depends on the person. We have a lot of unfinished business in our past, a lot of regrets. And so those regrets, those unfinished business is what is somewhere in the mind, even if it's not in the conscious mind, but it is somewhere back in the mind. And these regrets are like energy that sucks our attention. And so one way to deal with that is to deal with our regrets. Now, a whole of psychology, and there is a huge business or a huge world of how to deal with the past. Now, I can talk about this for a long time. I'm not going to. If the past, if somebody has had a very difficult past, like, I don't know, really hard things happen, like violent death or rape or war, then I will recommend to try to go to a psychologist, to try to go to somebody to help you to repair the past. But for most people, and everybody has problems in the past, everybody, their parents or their grandparents or the society or the teacher have messed your mind. Everybody has that. The best way to deal with the past is to, and this is a whole subject, of course, how to do it, but the best way is to embrace your past, accept your past, love your past, which includes the people that hurt you. How? By understanding that nobody did anything on purpose. Nobody. Even the worst thing that anybody did to you, they did it because they didn't know the truth. They did it because they were blind to love. Our essential, what we truly are, is this love. Awareness is love. And when we are blind from that, then we want to grasp things from the world. And grasping things from the world without being able to be aware that we may be hurting the world, we hurt it. And we do things that, because of the blindness, we do things that hurt. And people can hurt us. But they didn't do it on purpose. There is a note in my book, it's called Loving Our Parents. Because I feel that our parents are at the very root of our difficulty with our past. For many people, in my case, my parents were not perfect, but I had a very good family, and I don't have so many regrets. But read that note, Loving Your Parents, and replace parents with any situation, any person, and learn to love your past. Learn to embrace your past. Again, if it's too big, you need help. Go to psychologists, go to some treatment. But for most people, don't spend too much time. Go to your past, understand that nothing has been done to you on purpose. It was only done from blindness. Another article, another note in my book is called about. It's a very nice note. Actually, I read it recently, and I find it. Sorry, I wrote it, but for me it was very helpful to read that. It's called About Wrongdoing. It's a very helpful note to understand that nobody does anything on purpose. And then with that understanding that nobody does anything on purpose, we can forgive, first embrace, first understand, then embrace, then forgive, and then love our past. And when we love our past, we can just keep it there, go back if we need to, and then return to the moment. Of course, more things can be said, but I'm trying to find some couple of more questions. One question, very beautiful question, is the presence and awareness you are describing are extremely appealing. It is. It is the essence of, it is the meaning of our life. What can one do every day to reach them sooner? What has helped you reach them and be able to maintain them on the long term? Well, to start with, there is nothing to reach because it is already here. Reaching implies distance. Reaching implies you are here now, presence is there, you need to reach the presence over there. So I know it's not so easy to understand, it's not so easy to get, it took me a long time to get it, but very important thing is to see that there is no reaching because it's already right here. Like if I ask you, please take a step into yourself, physically stand up and take a step into yourself. What will you do? Take a step into yourself. You can't because you're already there. So there is no reaching that presence. There is only recognizing that it is already here. Now, how do you recognize? That will be the question. And one of the most important things is what in Sanskrit, in yoga, is called mumukshu. Mumukshu. Mumukshu means an intense desire for the truth. Very intense desire for the truth. One example that in the old tradition, this is in the very old tradition, like 2,000, 3,000 years ago. Imagine somebody is holding you underwater. Somebody grabs your neck and push you underwater. What will you think? What will you do? What will you be trying to do? You will not be thinking about your past, your future, your needs, your wife, your children, your problems, your money. What will you be thinking? You will be thinking only of air. How can I get air? That's mumuksha. Is the profound, the fire for the truth. And then that fire will find its way. And the way, what is the way? Well, read books, start with reading books that will take you to that. Find a teacher, find somebody that can point you into yourself. Yourself, not the body yourself, not the mind yourself, but yourself as the awareness that is aware of this moment. Yes, it takes time. It takes time to understand that what you are is already here. So there is no time. But it's true, it has to be pointed. So what do you do every day? See that everything that you do it because you're looking for happiness. See that happiness cannot be found outside in the world, but first in the mind. And then once you start to recognize that all is mind, there is no world outside, all there is mind, then what is aware of this mind? What is aware of the mind is here now. What is aware of this experience? What is aware of this experience? What is aware of this experience? This one right now. This one right now. This experience right now. The experience change, the moments change, but the awareness aware of this experience doesn't change. Another question is, how can we detach ourselves? I imagine it means how can we stop grasping things from the world? Remember that the attachment comes from me. I'm not grasped by the world. I grasp the world. The world doesn't need me. I need the world. It seems that the world is grasping me, but it's not like that. The world doesn't grasp me because the world doesn't need me. So the way to detach myself is simply by understanding that what I really want, which is happiness, cannot be found in the world. I mean, the world has an enormity to offer. There is nothing wrong with the world. There is so much that the world can offer. But because I am in need, then what the world can offer becomes an attachment to me, something that I need to grasp. And because I cannot grasp it, because everything is changing, then I suffer. So the suffering is not in the world. It's not what happens in the world. It's not even in this coronavirus. The coronavirus, of course, is not nice. I hate it. It's horrible. It's messing our life around. But the coronavirus is a necessity of life for whatever reason. Even if it was put it on purpose, if it was just nature or whatever it was, is life expressing itself. The problem is not in what's happening. The problem is in the way I see what's happening. The problem is in my attachments because I am needy. The suffering is not in the world, it's not in what's happening. What's happening may be bothering, like if you have a toothache, or now I have a lot of pain on my left side of my body, for whatever reason. It's not fun. I hate to have this pain. But the pain is there. The suffering is not in my pain. The suffering is in my desire that the pain is not there. There is nothing wrong with desire it, but the pain is still there. And the suffering is not in the pain, but it's in my belief that the pain should not be there. It's in my attachment to my desire that the pain is not there. What my desire should do is I need to do what I can do to release the pain. I can do some exercise, I can go to a doctor. Right now, in my case, exercise is not my problem because I always do exercise. And going to the doctor, I cannot. Because of the coronavirus, there are not so much possibilities. So what else can I do? Try not to complain too much. But the suffering is not in the pain. The suffering is my attachment to my desire that the pain is not there. This is something that we should put, like we should write it in a piece of paper and put it in our fridge, put it in the mirror, in the bathroom, put it everywhere. We should remember this continuously. There is no suffering in what happens. There is only suffering in my attachment or the desire that I have that what happens should not be happened or should be happened differently. That's where the suffering is. It's not in what's happening. Even if what's happening creates discomfort. Like, for example, the pain on my side or the coronavirus. Another very good question and very difficult to answer. Do you have a mentor that has helped you deepen your practice of presence? Do you think a mentor can help? Where could one find such a mentor? Okay, in theory, no, a mentor is not necessary. You can find it on your own. But it's like painting. Do you need a mentor to learn painting? Well, in theory, you don't. You could learn it on your own. But practically speaking, truly speaking, yes, you do need a mentor. Especially, even more than with painting, because in presence, what you're looking for is something that is already here. And because it's already here, we are not seeing it. You know, the example that I give is like a fish looking for water. A fish is swimming around, and he said, I heard there is water, and this water is magnificent. Where can we find it? And somebody said, I don't know, over there or over there. And so the fish keeps looking around. Where is the water? Where is the water? Where can the fish find it? It's everywhere. But it's even more complex than that. It's not really a fish looking for water, but it's more like a wave looking for water. So a fish looking for water is already very difficult, but it's more complex than that. It's a wave looking for water. We are the wave. And we said, where is water? Where is water? And the wave is looking everywhere. And the wave is water. So in our case, the first place that we need to look for is in that sense of I. I means awareness. It's the awareness that is aware of my experience. Who is aware of my experience? Ask yourself. I am experiencing this moment. I have a computer in front of me. Carlos is talking. This is an experience. Now, what is aware of this experience? I will say, I am. What is this I? That I, that naked I, not my thoughts about the I, not my ideas of who I am, but this naked I, that's the ocean, that's the water. And I am the wave looking for water. So for that recognition, yes, a mentor is necessary. Where can you find a mentor? Very good question. Depends on your desire, you will find it. If you really want to find it, you will find it. But having said that, there is a note I wrote in my book. It's called About Gurus. Read it. I find that is, in my experience, it's very important to know about gurus, because there is as much you have to be careful about giving your love to a guru. You have to be very careful. There is a lot of garbage out there. So, yes, you need a mentor, but you have to be very aware of where you put your love. This is a whole subject. I will not go into it. I have a note that talks about that. Another question is, Carlos, how much presence can we find in a book, or happiness? Tell us more about your book, please. The book is like a guide. It's like a pointer. Books are very important, but a book should take you to yourself. The happiness, the presence is not in the book. It's not in the guru. It's not in a person. It's not me. It's not in me talking. The presence is in you. The happiness is in you. So a book can only take you so far to take you to the experience of yourself, which means to the awareness of who or what is aware of your experience. The book is only a guide. If somebody is very, very prepared, which is very rare, it happens. It happens as much as people can win the lottery. So how much? Very, very rarely. It could happen. But most of the time, for most people, a book is far from enough. A book is like a guide that will take you to another book, that will take you to another book, that will take you to a person, that will take you to another person, that will take you to another person, that will take you to another person, that will be pointing towards this silent, aware presence that is always here and that you are. You are right now, like the fish looking for water, or more precisely, like the wave looking for water. So somebody is asking, I hope it's not too long. I don't know, I'm having fun here, but it's already 8. We started at 6:30, 7:30, 1 hour and a half. So maybe this is enough. I love to do this. And actually, I sent today an email to my contacts about meditation classes and yoga classes, and also events like this where I can answer questions online and for free. They're all for free. So if you're interested, you can send me an email and tell me that you would like to be part of it. I can send you the links for these events. And if there is interest, I will do more of this. I enjoy them very much. I think they can be very helpful. And I think it's wonderful to be with people that are interested in these subjects. So please send me an email. Send me an email to, I don't know if you can find it in my Facebook, Yogilates Romania, or in my website, yogilates.ro. You can find it in my book, that's even better. And just send me an email and ask me to put you on my contact list, and I can send you the links for this event. I would love to have you there. I want to thank very much Editura Vellant for making this possible, especially for making my book available. I am truly very grateful to you for doing this. And I'm very grateful to Shorban from Carturesti, which made the contact between Editura Vellant and myself. When you have thoughts, stress, anxious thoughts, don't fight with them. Understand, they come from the path, from the belief that my happiness is in security, but there has never been security and there will never be security. It's fine to try to be secure, and insecurity creates anxiety, of course, but there is more to life than security. As much as it's wonderful to feel secure, because it feels very good to feel secure, sooner or later this insecurity will be obvious for everybody. And now we have this opportunity this opportunity to experience what really is, which is there is no security, there is only uncertainty. But with wisdom, we can find happiness, irrespective of our uncertainty or certainty that we experience in the moment. So keep coming back to yourself. Keep reading these kind of books. Of course, I like very much if you read my book, but there are many books. Keep reading, keep studying, dedicate your time to getting this kind of information, to be in contact with this kind of philosophy or spirituality that take you to yourself. You cannot just make it on your own. You need a mentor, and the mentor either is a person, if you find one, or is a good book. But you need to put your heart into it. And that means dedicate time to studying, to reading, to spend time meditating, to being with yourself. It's not just, I hope something will happen to me. This hope, this fire, this desire has to be transformed into an action. And the action is studying, is meditating, is being with myself, is asking the right questions. In religious language, and actually in the language that I had when I was young, even if I was not religious at all, I never had religion in my family, I never had religion in my upbringing. But in religious language, it means the desire to find God. The understanding that without it, nothing makes sense. And God is this presence, this awareness that I am. Not the mind, not the body, but the awareness that is aware of the mind and the body. Right here and right now. Thank you very much.